Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Climate EDU. I am your host, Kayla Hathaway, and today I'm joined by Smita Malpani. Smita Malpani is a professional faculty of the Environmental Science Department at Washtenaw Community College. Her background encompasses sustainable development, specifically natural resource management, economic growth, and infrastructure programs for donors. She holds a BA in Biological Sciences and Anthropology from Wesley College and a Master's in Environmental Science from Yale University. Smita discusses Washtenaw Community College and Associates in Science and Environmental Science on today's episode on Simpatico. Students enrolled in this program will have first-hand lab experiences studying environmental problems from a scientific perspective, as well as proposing and implementing solutions to sustainability. Smita, thank you so much for joining me today. How's your Thursday been going?
Thank you so much. It's been going pretty well. We're lucky here in Michigan because the weather is starting to warm up in the beginning of March. So we're getting a taste of spring. It's feeling real good.
Oh, that sounds lovely. Are the trees starting to get their leaves back now, or are they still...
Oh, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Soon, hopefully.
Yeah, when spring comes, it's glorious. So it's worth the wait.
I definitely can't wait to see what spring looks like here in Washington now, so can definitely relate. um, so with this Associates in Science at your community college, my first question for you is, what's the inspiration behind forming this program?
Yeah, thank you. So the program was formed maybe 15 years ago now, and it was really formed in response to just a few things. One, demand. Students, we offered at WCC, we offered sort of more traditional science disciplines of physics and chemistry and biology, and students were wanting to explore different fields in different ways that were very pragmatic and less abstract. And then also we had two faculty, one faculty person from biology and one faculty person from geology, who were both sort of like-minded souls academically and sort of ethically. Their ethos was sort of like-minded. And so they got together and they put this program together so that it was meant to be, a science program, but it was also meant to be an interdisciplinary program. Environmental sciences is you can't talk about the environment without talking about a lot of different disciplines at the same time.
Sorry, I think we might earthquake. I'm not sure. Or something's on the roof. I don't know. Sorry. Anything can happen with live streaming. I was like, the panic button on. I was trying to hit mute because I was like, oh no, hopefully the rattling's not picking up in the microphone. But I think
okay?
There's construction going on the roof actually. Like, I don't know, but we'll get back to this. Lisa, can you just please edit this out? That was a total panic mode of, oh no, there's audio going on in the background.
Oh, and coming from California, of course, that's your first instinct, right?
Oh yeah, like literally anytime you start hearing like anything shaking, it's like, wait, are we having like an earthquake? Or because there is the Cascadia fault line, but they've been doing re-roofing for some of the units. So yesterday they just finished the one across from us. So I'm wondering if the sounds and like the vibration, because we're on the second floor and that's a thing. But anyway, all of this will be cut out from the official episode. Don't worry. I just like little panic mode, but all right.
Wow.
So.
And then when you said earthquake, it's like,
oh no, yeah, that's literally my first reaction to hearing like any like doors start vibrating. I'm like, okay, do I go under my desk or not?
Yeah. Gosh.
I just totally apologize for that. So, getting back into it, so you had geology department and the biology department coming together and deciding to form an environmental science program, correct?
Right, exactly. And it really started with one class. And the geology instructor used to teach one half of the class and the biology instructor would teach the other half. There was another part-time person who taught both halves of the class. And from there, the program just evolved to include different classes, different disciplines. And it just started to grow and grow, I think, because students increasingly realize the importance of these issues, of this topic, and are hungry to learn about it, and then try and figure out what they can do with that degree.
And so with this degree, so you said it's been around for about 15 years, right? Okay. So with the Associates in Science for Environmental Science, how is the curriculum structured? Is it a 2-year AS or more like 3 years? And what kind of classes are students taking this program?
Yeah, so it's meant to be a 2-year program, and we recently went through a bit of a restructuring of the degree. So now the degree is really aligned with the Michigan Transfer Agreement, so that um, sort of the maximum number of courses that we can get to transfer over to different institutions, particularly Eastern Michigan University, will transfer over. And we used to have 2 tracks, a sort of a social science track and a science track. And now we've kind of collapsed that down into 1 track. And there's like a focus on just getting the basic science classes down, because if you don't take them at WCC, for most colleges in Michigan, you're going to have to take them once you get to university. So we thought better to help students get through those courses, those introductory general science courses at WCC. They'll transfer over and they can sort of have them under their belt, and then they have sort of greater latitude and flexibility with how they move forward in their degree. But our degree dovetails really well with the program at Eastern Michigan University. So if you complete an associate's at WCC, you're going to get all of your core program requirements out of the way for Eastern Michigan University. Transferring over to UMich is a little bit harder. UMich doesn't, I don't know how I should be diplomatic in how that I say this, but UMich is a bit different when it comes to allowing transferability of community college courses to UMich. What I will say, though, is that you'll get all of your gen ed requirements out of the way if you complete a degree at WCC, an Associate's in Environmental Science degree at WCC. You won't have to do general ed requirements once you get to UMich, because our courses are sort of selected to be aligned with the Michigan Transfer Agreement.
Wonderful. And with the courses that are available for this program, how much of it is online and how much of it is in the classroom?
Yeah, thank you for that. So if you were asking me this question a year and a half ago, I would have said half and half. But now I can actually tell you that all of these classes are offered online asynchronous. So yeah, so we have students that actually have been UMich students, but they're based in Greece, or they're based in Texas, or they're based in California, and they're taking classes at WCC just because they know they'll get good classes, they'll get a good experience, and it's easy to do online. And community colleges, I think the strength of community colleges in the pandemic is that we are used to doing this. We are used to being able to reach students where they are at. So we have been experimenting with different things in online formats and virtual formats. And so, when the pandemic hit, we were ready. I mean, we weren't really ready. I don't think anyone was really ready, but we were able. I think a lot of departments saw enrollments decline during the pandemic. Our department actually doubled in size. And I think it's in large part due to the fact that we offer a solid online learning experience.
So I'm curious about so the description of the program talks about like lab experience. Do you know how that's done online? Is it like virtual labs or?
Yeah, I will be very frank with you. We do we have managed to put together some labs that have very simple setups using home materials. You know, we teach biomagnification using different kinds of like everyday materials, sea ice and land ice, you know, those kinds of things. Um, but a lot of it is now a few different things. It's using online simulations that have been developed through the college, and then also just honestly, instructors just writing labs to walk students through, like, okay, we're going to give you, this is what the experimental design would look like, and do the experiment in our house and show you that on a video. And here's the data that the class would have put together from this experiment. Now it's your turn to analyze the data and walk them through, for example, how you set up a scientific experiment, kind of with a mixture of, look, this is how you would do this experiment, and this is the class data, and now go analyze it. So I'm going to be very frank with you. I love teaching in the classroom. I think most instructors do. I don't want to be teaching on a screen. Um, but I can't say that the learning is compromised necessarily. Like the learning, I think there's sort of learning that happens in these interstitial spaces, right? Where you just talk informally, and there's a lot to be gained by that. But in terms of the formal academic curriculum, I think we're managing to get across what we should be getting across.
Oh, and that's definitely reassuring to hear, especially on the statement of how community colleges were kind of already slightly better prepared by offering things online like more nimbly. So super congratulations to your department for managing to make this work, especially during this past year.
Thank you.
um,
Yeah, at the very beginning, man, I remember the day after the pandemic, we had class over GoToMeeting. At that point, we were using GoToMeeting. Literally days after the pandemic, a third of my students had lost their jobs,
oh my gosh.
and that only increased. And so you can only imagine, right, what it takes to keep students learning through a pandemic. It takes a full range, not just of faculty, but of success coaches, support services. I mean, we got a crash course in everything the college has to offer, and it's significant. And I think, I can't, we, the faculty, I don't think can claim credit just by ourselves. I think it's the hard work of a lot of counselors, a lot of support staff that helped students, and people connecting students with resources. All of that helped students keep learning.
And on the topic of faculty, in our previous conversations, was talking about the details of this program. I was stumbling across information that your environmental science department seems to have the highest faculty ratings for like in the college. And so if you can tell me a little bit about that, because that sounds pretty awesome. Just saying.
Yeah, I don't know, the numbers exactly, but I will say that our environmental science faculty, I think they're phenomenal. We have faculty that work in EGLE, which is sort of the EPA for Michigan State, so the Michigan State Environmental Agency. We have faculty that have worked on zebra mussels and zequinox. We have faculty that have done just amazing work. And so they bring those real life experiences into the classroom. Before starting to teach, I worked in international development, which is like a little bit of a different field, like in sustainable development. But I think there's that value too of community college faculty. We're steeped in the real world, and pragmatic solutions to what is going on in the real world. So yeah, our faculty have been, I was saying earlier that, oh, well, we can't totally claim credit as faculty for the growth in our program, but I will say, like, our program would not have grown without the awesomeness of our faculty, just being responsive to students, being humane
Hmm.
with students during a pandemic, also providing, rigorous learning. Most of us that teach environmental science, we're not teaching it because, like, we have some abstract connection to an abstract topic. We are teaching it because we are passionate about it. We are so conscious of the fact that we are reaching the next generation of students. Um, and for some of us, for many of us, like, this is about our life's work. It's not just about, like, grades and labs, and it's about connecting students with a larger world of ideas and giving them the tools to be conversant and empowering them to have those discussions and have those weigh in with their thoughts.
And on the topic of like getting out into the world and with the information provided with this degree, I'm curious on what kinds of research and career opportunities are available to students who graduate from your community college with their AS in environmental science.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have a number of different research opportunities. We don't offer research opportunities really. We don't have them at the college as much, although I will say that, like, during the pandemic, we've offered a kind of a capstone experience for students to do independent research. And so, like, one of my students this semester, so cool, she's doing a research project, kind of a literature review and summary of islands in the Pacific. And everyone expected that islands in the Pacific would go under because of sea level rise, right? But that's not actually happening. What's actually happening, according to some studies, is that there's this accretion that is going on from coral reefs that are actually building up islands. And so she's doing some research on that and trying to piece together the different pieces of the puzzle. We've had other students do undergraduate research projects at UMich, working on the Great Lakes and algal blooms and other projects. We've also had students go out and do internships in the community. So working at local farms, working at wildlife rehabilitation centers, working with the city in different capacities. So there's lots of different ways to get involved. A number of our students go on to four-year universities, but there have been some students that have used the associates as a terminal degree. So they'll go on and they'll work for a utility company, for example, working on GIS, or they'll find work in a water quality lab, or taking samples or something like that. So, it depends on the student. Some students have been able to use the associates as a terminal degree, and that's all that's what they came for. That's what they wanted, and they're not looking to transfer to a four-year university. And other students have successfully transferred and then go on to further specialize in their fields.
And as we get close to the end of the episode here, my final segment of questions here about the degree is about admissions and kind of like the calendar details. So for your community college, what does the is it a quarter system or a semester system? And when does enrollment typically start throughout the year?
So it's a semester system, though we do offer classes in the spring, summer as well. Um, it's a sort of a shorter semester than the fall and winter semesters. And enrollment is really on a rolling basis. So we have classes that start right at the beginning of the semester. We have classes that start a couple weeks into the semester. And then we have classes that are like double time classes that started in the middle of the semester. So, and that's again, like, because some students have different arrangements, different kinds of work commitments and family. And so, yeah, so that's kind of why we're trying to be as flexible as we can. And when students kind of jump in and out of the semester.
Oh, and I definitely applaud that effort for being more like, what's the word I'm looking for? Accommodating. There we go.
Yeah.
It was on the tip of my tongue. For being more accommodating to students. And I think that's something that's so incredibly wonderful about the community college experience is that it's come as you are, and students are given the opportunity to succeed regardless of their situation. And so it's wonderful to hear that there's environmental science programs that are available now.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And if I could just say one quick word,
Oh yeah, go
but
for it.
before we end, about our students, um, it's not a one-way street. I learn an enormous amount from my students every single semester, and they inform our teaching just as much, I think, sometimes as we teach them. They tell us about their daily lives, like what has mattered to them, how they've navigated their ideals about the environment and how they live in the real world. Um, and so our WCC students are enormously sort of abundantly gracious in how they approach the world and their relationships. And yeah, I just love our students so much. And I think that's true of a lot of our faculty.
And my final question to you is, are there any specific classes that you're personally teaching in the environmental science track?
Yeah, so I teach 3, actually, I guess right now 4. One is just the typical introduction to environment and society. It's the sort of environmental science 101 with a lab. Another class that I teach is environment and society, which is also a science class, but it also incorporates social science perspectives into looking at scientific issues, environmental science issues. And then I lead the course on internships. We have a sort of a 1 credit course, capstone experience on internships, and then also independent study.
And so independent study is that like a student picks a topic or that they'll present a topic and then you'll prove it and then they go research it and have a presentation at the or
That's right. They do a literature review and a paper, and then present at the end to a group of faculty that they have chosen. I mean, it's a friendly group of faculty. It's not a firing line. Um, Faculty that have helped them throughout their WCC career, and that they want to invite to say like, "Hey, look what I did. Look what I learned." So it's sort of a support circle for that student. Um,
Oh,
so
I love that. Like I wish there was more of that. Well, we have hit our time for today's episode, but just hang tight. I'm gonna roll the end credits and we're gonna roll into just chatting, which is like just the informal hanging out for a couple minutes segment. So we'll be right back.
okay, sounds good. Does not seem to have been an earthquake. That's a good thing.
Yeah, and and we're back. So this part won't be part of the actual official episode. This is just kind of like, winding down because it's nice to have like we are in the zone and now we get a chill moment. But thank you
Yeah, yeah.
for coming on. Um
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity.
like this part of me is kind of bummed that like I've already graduated because I the more I learn about all these different programs just across the states, I'm like, man, like just all of them. Like
Well, if it's any consolation, I feel the same. Like sometimes I look at different programs and I'm like, oh.
oh, they
When I was in college, there was no environmental science. So I didn't have the option of being an environmental science major, which is why I majored in like biology and anthropology. But like, yeah, I think it's cool that there are different options now for students.
yeah, and I mean the environmental science, well, as you said, this program was the past 15 years. So I mean, it's been about the past 15 to 20 years where like environmental science degrees have even really kind of stream. in a sense. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. It's a newer thing for sure.
mhm.
Um, yeah, and it's kind of I think at first like scientists look down their noses a little bit because they're like, "You're not a biologist, you're not a chemist. What are you?" kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But but I think it's the importance of it is becoming increasingly recognized.
Yeah, I mean, especially with just how much, like in the social sciences for environmental science, especially, I think it's becoming a lot more part of mainstream discourse. Like with environmental justice and climate justice being like the two big like keywords over the past few years.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I'm so excited about next week. So our climate summit is the theme this year is environmental justice. So I'm pretty excited.
Hmm.
I'm also pretty nervous and scared that Zoom will totally escape me, but I think it'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, no, like I mentioned earlier, I'll go ahead and get you connected with Sarah and Mike. So if you would like simpatico support for the panel, like the organizing that you guys are putting together, um, that way you have the option for that because we are definitely used to dealing with technical difficulties and supporting people through them. So
That sounds good to me. That sounds good to me. And it's always nice for our college to know of different resources.
yeah, especially because I mean I, I mean in terms of content creation, like yeah, we're in the grand scheme of the internet, we're still considered new. Because like we started doing all like these types of episodes in February of last year, so like literally the last week of February. So we just hit like a oh yeah, full year of doing live content.
One
Oh my god.
year. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just losing track of time. It's March. It's March 11th.
I
Like
know.
what is time?
I know. It's so crazy. It's been a year since we shut down in Michigan. Um, and I remember it so vividly that it doesn't seem that long ago. You know,
Yeah,
it's like it's
right?
not a distant memory at all.
It's like it almost feels like, maybe just last month was when I was as the shutdown happened during midterms week for me and my senior year last semester midterms week. They're like, "Hey, go home and do your midterms." It's like, "What?"
I
So that
cannot imagine. Oh, and then your graduation and everything.
oh yeah, they were trying to do like a so they were wanting to think of doing an online thing and then people were like, no, that's kind of lame. Then, especially since everything started so like it was so fresh, right? Um, and then they're like, oh well, now the emails that are going out is like class of 2020. If you want to walk with the class of 2021 this year, and I'm like, no, it's already been a year. I'm not gonna go and spend money on a cap and gown now. Like, what is
Yeah,
this? But
yeah.
see, Levy, I'm planning on getting a master's degree at some point, so hopefully there won't be an epidemic. Get to walk during that time.
You know, at my grad school, what they did is they decorate their caps. So everyone had like birds and grass and flowers and like all over their caps. And a lot of them had uh, that was the year that George W. Bush spoke at Yale's graduation. So a lot of them had obscenities directed at George W. Bush on their hats too. But you
Mhm.
know, it's just whatever expression.
What floats your boat?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, I that's actually pretty awesome. Um, but yeah, that's my personal opinion. That is pretty cool. Um, yeah, well, so with your episode, I'll have the official version ready in about 24 to 48 hours. When it's done, I'll send you an email with the download link. And like I mentioned before, if there's any specific parts that you want clipped out for like Twitter or like Facebook or anything like that, just send me the timestamp. So like, oh, from 3 minutes and 5 seconds to 3 minutes and 42 seconds, can you crop this out? And I can go ahead and do that for you, no problem. Um, and yeah, so I think in that same email, I'll send you, well, actually, right after this, I'll CC Mike and Sarah. So with anything program related, it's good to have it like sooner rather than later. So I'll send that to you right after we get off this call, and then I'll send you the download link for the episode once it's ready.
Thank you so much, Kayla. I really appreciate it.
Oh, and thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to. I really appreciate
Yeah, thank you. It was a new experience for me, so it was fun. Thank you.
it. Yeah, and anytime you want to come back on to talk more hype about WCC or your own research or just environmental justice communications, feel free. I've been doing more just chatting episodes, so like the Monica Sanders who I had on just before you, she's been coming on like every month now just to talk about environmental justice, climate justice, racial equity. We actually just did the episode before this was the definitions difference between environmental justice and climate justice. So
Mm,
yeah, if you ever want to just come on and just chat, you're like, hey, this important thing's going on. I have opinions, and I'll be like, all right, let's do it.
that sounds good. That sounds
Mhm.
that
Well,
sounds very good. That sounds like a lot of fun.
well, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your evening. It's
Thank
time zone,
you.
and
Yep, we're time soon.
yeah, time zone shenanigans always like just need like a massive wall clock or something on the back wall here at this point. But have a fantastic rest of your evening and a beautiful weekend, and I'll be chatting with you soon.
Sounds very good. Thanks so much, Kayla. Take care.
You too. Okay,
Okay.
bye. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining me on 2 episodes for Climate EDU today. And this will be, wrapping up our entire live day for Simpatico. For those who joined me this morning for the Simpatico Daily segments, thank you so much for just sticking through the entire day today. If there's any feedback, like any ways that you think that I can improve the Simpatico Daily experience to make it more easily consumable for viewers, feel free to message me directly here on the Simpatico platform, shoot me an email, DM me on Twitter. I am absolutely open to suggestions since this is a new segment that I'm kind of just putting together and hoping that it works. And yeah, once again, thank y'all so much for joining us. And this is our final episode of this week. I will be seeing y'all again Tuesday morning at around 9 a.m. Pacific, so noon Eastern, for the Simpatico Daily. We'll to go ahead and dissect this week's episodes, introduce next week's episodes, and then get into just the news, details, reruns, and everything then. Have a fantastic rest of your week, a beautiful weekend, and I will see you all on Tuesday morning.